Well, I always like to start a video with a before and after, but this is the after before the before. We're going to show you our plant choices and us planting up these 4 pots in the foreground of this old cutting garden. Now the main view from one of the converted barns here in mid-Norfolk. A white garden later in summer, so the bedding that's been planted in here is on that theme. And do stay tuned and we'll take you through the preparation and planting of these 4 containers. Welcome back into the mid-Norfolk farm garden, and this afternoon we're going to be taking out these tulips and daffodils that have done so well in these large pots, just on this gravel garden aspect behind our barn. We've been out to the garden centres this afternoon, and this time of year you're spoilt for choice for bedding. And this is what we've come back with. Just let me show you the variety we've got. Now, not everything here is going to be planted in these pots. We're going for white geraniums with some white begonias, and we've also found these Alstroemeria, which I'm going to try for the first time to grow in these large pots. I'm going to put them in the very large pots at the front, surrounded by the annuals. We've got quite a few larger white pelargoniums, which we had in this aspect last year. This is the smaller of the 6 that we've got in the conservatory that's going to come out to complement this planting. I don't think they're the same variety. Cato is the one we had last year, and this one's Erica White. So I don't think we're going to be able to tell the difference. They look identical to me in their habit and everything, even the shape and coloration on the leaf. So I think they'll go very well together. And this is a bit of an experimental planting with the Alstroemeria, which I've never grown in pots before and haven't seen done. So whether it's a good idea or not, but they'll probably only stay in the pots for 12 months, or no, less than that. Talking about end of season when we're lifting the geraniums to put the next set of bulbs in. So they're going to be in here till around October time when we replant these containers. But before I can do that, obviously I'm going to have to empty these very large terracotta containers with what's been growing in them over the spring, and that's Narcissi in this side, and behind me that lovely dark black purple tulip, which has now come to an end. So I'm just going to go and get a trowel and we'll start removing these, and then we're going to replant these in a bed where they will over summer and hopefully give us a lovely display again next year. Now, if you've planted in a nice open compost, I'm hoping these are going to come up relatively easily, just with a bit of loosening. They were planted quite deep. Let's just see how they come up. Yes, they are very, very deep. So I'm going to have to work these with a trowel. I don't want to snap them off and leave the bulbs in. They are lovely big bulbs from Thompson and Morgan, these, and they've done very, very well. We're not wasting these, we're going to replant them. Now, they've still got some very good healthy root on. We'll need to water them really, really well when we do replant these in a trench for next year. Let me just crack on and empty this pot for you, and then we'll come back and show you the finished job. Well, these bulbs came up relatively easily when I've got in on one side. It was much easier once I got under them, and just look, lovely healthy tops with these beautiful roots. Now what I'm going to do is dig a trench and replant these at the same level that they've been grown in this container, and they should grow on now, and we'll just leave them in that position over summer. I'm going to plant them somewhere where we'll enjoy them next year, from the barn window out over this garden, and we've got the perfect spot which we'll show you in just a minute. Now the container that we've cleaned, removed all the root that we can find from those narcissi. See, the compost is nice and friable, still a little bit of root just to pick over, but I would still recommend that we refresh this compost with some fresh, unused, and what we've got on the farm at the moment is some lovely, really well rotted compost that's been in sacks now for about a year and a bit, This is mushroom compost again, mixed with a bit of horse manure. It's really a beautiful consistency. Just look at that lovely, dark, crumbly, rich aroma to it as well. It's absolutely a superb planting medium. I'm just going to mix a good portion of that in. I'll probably put another pot load in because we really want this compost to support those Alstroemeria and the bedding we're going to put in here into strong, rapid growth straight away. So, bit of preparation. If you haven't got access to compost to refresh the pot, then put some slow release fertilizer pellets or something similar in, so that you're going to get these plants growing strongly away from the very first. Now these Alstroemeria, as you can see, are really going to catch the light beautifully here. They form these very thick, sometimes quite tender roots. They're very easy to break and damage. You can see where these are spread out, they have been damaged in transit. I'm just going to ease this very gently out of the pot. Wow, look at that. Absolutely ready to be planted out. And these roots will spread out into this container quite extensively, even over the course of a single season. So I'm going to use my pot to get a perfect size hole in the centre of this compost, and then when we form that, we'll plant the first and central Alstroemeria and then start filling in with geranium and some begonias. Well, this is a great little technique if you're planting something with very soft, delicate roots like this, just to use the pot that it came in to form and to firm the compost around the sides of that pot, the perfect size hole in which to slip your plant, and in it goes perfectly without any further damage to that soft root system. So what I'm going to do now is repeat that process with a few of the small geraniums that we purchased just to fill this planter with a bit of added colour for the rest of this summer. I think that's going to give a really nice display in this container. It's a big terracotta pot, but the Alstroemeria we're hoping is going to extend and fill it quite quickly and give us a lovely long display of those lovely flower stalks held above the lower geranium and with the white begonia just on the foreground of the planting. We're going to repeat it on the other side, so we've got two in direct line looking down this planting. So let's finish this off, and then I've got some tulips to lift. Well, I'm hopeful these are going to do very well. That pot's filled up really quite nicely. This is the one that had the tulips in. Here's the first one we showed you planting, and we've got a lovely wheelbarrow full of fantastic bulbs. Tulip bulbs come up really well, really nice, firm, good quality bulbs. I managed to lift them. A couple, if they snap off like that, don't panic. You can see there's a little baby there. You've got two bulbs there, which planted in a row with the rest of these should do very, very well. Expect the tulips to die down and brown off much quicker than the daffodils. You can see the level of root growth and the fineness of the roots on the tulips, and they're already starting to just reabsorb all the nutrients back into those bulbs. So I fully expect those to be underground probably in a week to 10 days, whereas the daffodils may well go on in green growth for anything up to a month. Okay, well here is the planted row of tulips that we've trenched in on this border. We've tried to get them really nice and deep. We've deadheaded them to take any possibility of them trying to set seed, because you want all the energy in those leaves to go down into the bulbs for next year. And as I said earlier, I think these tulips will probably die back very, very quickly, and we'll be able to remove the dead leaves from the top if the poodle doesn't do that for me. But now what we really want to do, because they were quite dry in the pots, is give them a really good water. Ted, run for your life. You'll think he's going to get a bath, so he'll keep well out of the way now. Okay, he's given them a really good drenching in, and we'll make sure that they don't get droughted, because you've effectively bare rooted them. So you really want to try and keep them in some form of growth for as long as possible so they get all the nutrients possible back into those bulbs for a beautiful flower display. In this position, we'll leave them in this position now and enjoy them for years to come, we hope.